What he will be trying to do is detect the weak spot in Ukraine's defenses, to try and, kind of land not a knockout blow, because I don't think he thinks he can get a knockout blow, but to make some progress. Russia has been notably short of progress in this war in recent months. He desperately needs some kind of victory to show off back at home. And
But were you expecting anything different from Putin's speech?
well, sadly, I wasn't expecting him to suddenly admit he'd made a terrible mistake in Ukraine. It was all very wrong, and he needed to sort of change his mind on this subject. I think obviously the particular details may have been slightly surprising, but there were, indications he was moving this direction already. He'd already essentially suspended part of the monitoring of the treaty. So it wasn't a wild jump for him to go to this place, although obviously an unwelcome one, given there is an important arms limitation treaty.
What does it actually mean he'll do?
Well, that's a big question. It's the right question to ask, because he has said he's suspending his involvement, not withdrawing from his involvement. What this treaty does is limits, firstly, the number of, say, warheads and items you can have in your nuclear arsenal. So you've got that. And you've also got the monitoring and data sharing on this for everyone to know that you're not cheating, as it were, on this. What that means is that if he's suspending it, it might necessarily not mean anything. It means he won't supply the data. It doesn't mean he's necessarily going to breach the treaty, although he might. And then the secondary part of this, of course, is stress on nuclear testing. Although he says he wouldn't do this unless the US did it first, you then got the fear that he might be, doing this in mind to actually use a live nuclear weapon in Ukraine.
Given his past behaviour, Alan, it wouldn't have been a surprise, would it, if he had decided to mark this anniversary of his invasion with more aggression, more violence, more firepower? So is this him looking at Biden's visit and going, well, if you're going to play international statesman, I'm going to kind of international out-statesman you?
Yes, although I think it's probably more a domestic message rather than an international one he's trying to make here. I think his line internally is very much, I am going to look after the war veterans. You saw that part of his speech. He's going to promise them pensions and tax relief and everything else in that sort of regard. His message is, we're doing this because the West started this war. I think a lot of it was internally focused. Of course, he's also rattling the saber at the Americans to say, as you've just suggested, you go to Poland, you make your speeches and I'll make mine, and we'll see which one comes out better.
There's also this interesting change of language, isn't there? It's no longer a military operation. I mean, he is now calling it a war.
Yes, well, I think he can't get away from that. This is supposed to be a special military limited operation. It's not been limited. Now, his line on this is it's only a war because the West has, kind of prosecuted this war against us. So it ties in very much with this victimization, this sense that Russia's being bullied and he is standing up for Mother Russia and he wants people to stand with him on that. So I think it's reflective of that mindset.
And where do you think he intends to go next? I mean, aside from this rhetoric, in simple physical terms of where his troops are and his next kind of, his next act of violence, what do you think he'll do?
Well, I think we've already seen that he started hostilities along the front, if you like, along the whole sort of Donbass front. My sort of guess would be that he will continue probing Ukraine defenses. He will ramp up what he's trying to do in the next couple of weeks, because of course the weather is changing, spring is coming, and this is your moment, of course, for the much vaunted spring offensive, as it were. And I think what he will be trying to do is detect the weak spot in Ukraine's defenses, to try and, kind of land not a knockout blow, because I don't think he thinks he can get a knockout blow, but to make some progress. Russia has been notably short of progress in this war in recent months. He desperately needs some kind of victory to show off back at home, and that's what I think he's going to try and do, find an area where he can claim a clear victory in.
What do you make of the last year, Alan? I mean, obviously, Putin didn't expect to be in this position today, did he? He expected this to have been a bish, bash, bosh, and he would have claimed victory much earlier.
Yes, I think, he's found himself in uncharted territory. And this is the man who, sort of was pledged to show Russian strength. And what's he ended up showing but Russian weakness? He's not been able to secure victory at short notice. He's not been able to roll Ukraine over. despite the government, in his words, being, fascists and criminals, etc. It turns out Ukraine believes in itself, and he has found that it's his army that's been deficient. It's his logistics that haven't worked. It's his morale that's plummeting. So I think he's had to take stock on that. Obviously, there were several answers to that. One could be, obviously, let's try and find a way out of this. He's decided, I'm not doing that. I've got to double down. And here's his version of, I'm doubling down. And if at first you can't succeed, try and try again.
Alan, just a quick one. I mean, do you think the Western alliance is holding? And what do you expect President Biden to say this afternoon in Poland?
Yep, I think it's definitely holding right now. We can see the supply of material. I think Biden's response will be, you're being irresponsible. You're acting like a menace internationally. I'm going to be the international defender of values and show once again the difference between the free world and the unfree world.